I'd like to just get your reaction to what we've seen over the last 24 hours. We've had that conversation between President Trump and President Putin. He failed to get Putin on board for that ceasefire that he has been lobbying for and that the Ukrainians have now been lobbying for. Do you think that this sort of semi-ceasefire on energy infrastructure, does this constitute progress?
Thank you, Oliver, for having me again here with you. What I can say is that the most important thing is that this conversation has taken place, and we appreciate the personal engagement of President Trump in the process. That's very important. At the same time, we should not be deceived by the strong and complicated word combinations that Russians usually use it as their tactics in the negotiations, trying to drag out the process and to delay the possible developments that they may make use of. It's important, well, to see deep into the substance of what's going on, and not, as they usually say, we are trying to do everything so that other partners cannot see the wood for the trees. This is the usual tactics that Russian resort to. And the main thing is to keep focused on actually every word and deeds, as they may put it and say it, because usually they use this, word combinations like we have agreed to joint work to develop the comprehensive plans for the ways of settling the situation, which will be of stable, lasting, and peaceful nature. All this is just to hide the actions that they may take, and the good confirmation that after the phone talk, 12 regions of Ukraine were attacked by drones during the night with destructions and losses on the Ukrainian territories. This is still on.
And yeah, so we got readouts from the Kremlin and the White House, and obviously there were some differences in what each of the leaders were sort of presenting. In order to get through those differences, have you and your team, has Zelensky been briefed on by the United States after that call?
I believe this will be still during the day of today, and you will hear news by the end of the day. I'm hopeful about that. At least it's not off the schedule of the leaders. So let's wait what will come after every party talk to each other.
And I'd like to get an idea from you in terms of what you consider the next steps to be after this call has taken place and this sort of partial ceasefire has been put into place. Will there be another meeting between President Zelensky and President Trump? Will there be meetings in Saudi Arabia over the next few weeks?
What I can assume and say that the teams are supposed to meet in the nearest future, and it will be important for our side that the teams can meet first, Ukrainians and the American team, because as Jeddah proved, they developed quite a trustful and constructive dialogue based on good words and facts. Our team, chaired by our chief of staff, present the situation as it is, without delay, without procrastination, and they are poised and determined to do so in the nearest future. So Ukraine is available and open for the mode of silence, as was declared by President Zelensky, everywhere, in the air, at sea, and on the land. And it doesn't have to cover only the energy infrastructure, as was proposed by the Russian side. We are absolutely open for this truce to take place, and that's how we are going to move forward and present this position to our European partners, and first of all, the American partners, because there is the trust built between them.
And I was reading the White House readout. It seemed that about half of the readout was focused on the war in Ukraine and sort of steps to try to end it. But the other half seemed to be focused on possible economic cooperation between the Russians and the United States, geopolitical cooperation between the U.S. and Russia. And there's also been these discussions that we've heard from Donald Trump talking about dividing basically Ukrainian assets already between whether it's power plants and territory. Are those parts of conversations that you're already a part of? How concerned are you about hearing those sorts of things?
Again, it's very important not to lose the focus on the main thing. We are talking about the stop to the hostilities and the end of war. After that, every proposal will be on the table. It will be a new period for Ukraine when reconstruction will start and the prosperity will be brought back to the country. But this is the second stage. The main stage is just to get the agreement on stop the hostilities, stop the killing, stop the destructions. That's in the focus of the president of Ukraine for today.
And I'd like to have your understanding of sort of what the Europeans' role can be in this conversation. Obviously, they've been sort of out of these discussions between Putin and Trump. This is a sort of bilateral, seems to be, sort of discussion. What do you imagine? What do you imagine the Europeans can bring to the table to help strengthen Ukraine's position? And EU leaders are going to meet here in Brussels over the next couple of days. What is your message to them?
Well, for Europe, it's very important just to to step up their security and defense capabilities. And there is no need to be deceived that once there is the ceasefire or the mode of silence in Ukraine, that it may not restart again. It's well understood by our Nordic European partners, and they will dedicate the bigger sums of money for the defense capabilities, and they will also dedicate some bigger sums of money into the investments into Ukrainian defense capabilities, because this will be the better security guarantees as of today. You need to have this defense to prevent recurrence of this war. This is the main thing. And I believe they will regroup their strategy of defense for the nearest time. And it will be the main political point for every leader in Europe to secure that their citizens feel safe and secure. This is the top priority for everyone on this territory.
And I would just like to touch finally on, because we've heard, Putin's list of demands. I'll list some of them. He wants the demilitarization of Ukraine. He wants no NATO membership. He wants to give up basically the regions of Luhansk, Donetsk, Zaporizhia, Kherson, no European forces within Ukraine. Have you had any reassurance from the U.S. side that they will basically not cave into these demands, that they will stand strong against these?
This is absolutely necessary and important for us to keep the Americans on board, in meaning that they cannot just lose the global leadership position like so, and they will not succumb to these demands by the Russian that try to equalize and to be equal partner of the United States, as their readout of the conversation with President Trump shows. It's quite a dangerous game to say. It's not like you don't need to repetition of this catch-22 that was well described by Joseph Heller in his novel. So the main thing is not to be deceived by this complicated verbal combination that Russians use every time when they hold negotiations.